Every leap in American history has needed breakthrough energy.
Ignition, liftoff.
Now, AI is here, and Chevron is working to power it. We're aiming to develop multi-gigawatt power plants near data centers, designed with future pathways to lower carbon intensity. AI gets the power it needs, communities get the jobs, and the grid stays strong. Powering AI today builds America's next superpower.
For busy parents, coffee is our fuel. Now, if only we could have it on drip, literally. Thank goodness for James Coffee Company, a specialty coffee roaster based in San Diego, California. Have you ever had a bad aftertaste in your mouth from drinking coffee? That comes from drinking low-quality coffee. Specialty coffee, like James, has a pleasant taste on the palate and only gets better when it cools down, which is when I usually get the chance to drink it. Sourcing the highest quality green coffee beans roasted to their greatest flavor potential, James roasts coffee daily, so it's fresh when it arrives on your doorstep, unlike buying from a grocery store where coffee may sit on the shelves for months. James supports small farmers and co-ops, and with your order, you support a small business with ethical and sustainable practices that pay their producers above fair market price. All of their coffee bags are 100% recyclable. And fun fact, in James Company coffee shops, the brand has eliminated all single-use cups and has switched to serving drinks in glass jars. Use my code MOMSENSE50 for 50% off your first subscription order and receive 20% off every order after that. It's MOMSENSE50. Just visit jamescoffeeco.com/subscriptions. Again, jamescoffeeco.com/subscriptions. So the next time you're waking up to make your cup of joe, let it be James.
Hi, this is Prerna Gupta, CEO of Hooked, and you're listening to me on That's Total Mom Sense.
As moms, we often wonder, am I doing enough for my kids? I'm here to tell you, you are super mama. That's because we have an undeniable superpower, our intuition, and it never steers us wrong. I call it our mom sense. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta, and I'm the host of That's Total Mom Sense. I'm a journalist, entrepreneur, wife, and mom of 3, twins plus 1. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my podcast, I interview influential moms from various industries and cover topics that all first-time parents grapple with, from getting your baby to sleep to screen time allowance, your new normal in your marriage, and how to dedicate time to yourself. Learn and laugh along with That's Total Mom Sense. In this digital age, we have the ability to create and consume content, namely stories, be it fiction or nonfiction, around the clock at our fingertips. And since this is a way of life that Gen Z has ever known, it's important to understand what sticks. What do teens enjoy as a pastime? How do they communicate? What resonates most? One such app, which is revolutionizing the art of storytelling, is Hooked. And the mastermind behind it is Prerna Gupta. Prerna Gupta is a female founder who has launched entertainment apps reaching over 1 billion people. She is currently founder and CEO of Hooked, which is a storytelling platform reaching 100 million Gen Z viewers worldwide. Hooked has been the #1 app on the App Store and Google Play in 25 countries and has won numerous design awards for its innovative chat fiction format. You can read more about what led Prerna to found a storytelling startup in this article that she wrote in Vogue, and we'll link it in the show notes. Hooked investors include Sound Ventures, led by Ashton Kutcher, the Chernin Group, WME Endeavor, Macro, led by Charles King, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Mariah Carey, Jamie Foxx, Joe Montana, Angela Acharya, Asif Manvi, Kyan Bannister, Eric Rice, Cowboy Ventures, Founders Fund, SV Angel, and Greylock, among many others. Prerna has been named one of the most influential women in tech by Fast Company, and her writing has been featured in the New York Times, Vogue, Forbes, and TechCrunch. Prerna graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Stanford University, and she and her husband Parag have a little one, and they're settled in California. Prerna, welcome to That's Total Mom Sense.
Thank you, Kanika. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, you are a powerhouse, and I'm so excited for you to delve into your life story and how you got to be where you are today. Many of us in the South Asian community, have an immigrant story, whether we're first generation or our parents immigrated to the US. So tell us about your roots.
So I'm the oldest child of immigrants from India. My parents are from North India. They immigrated here to the US in 1979, and I was born in 81. And I have two younger siblings as well. And it was a really difficult time to be an immigrant in this country, to be a brown immigrant in this country. We were in Chicago. That's where I was born for the first 5 years. And then we moved to a small town in Oklahoma. My father's a doctor, and it was just, there was an opportunity for him there. And, I don't think my parents really knew the difference between a big city like Chicago and a small town in Oklahoma. But it was very difficult growing up there, especially as the first child in the 80s and 90s. It was not a very tolerant environment, but I learned an incredible amount, and it was a very formative time in my life. And I'm actually really thankful for the experiences that I ended up having in Oklahoma. And in a lot of ways, now you fast forward to today, we live in an extremely divisive society. And my experiences growing up in a small town in the middle of the country as an Indian immigrant, learning how to find common ground with people who were different from me and had so many different beliefs has really, I think, informed a lot of how I feel about today, which is that there has to be a way for us to come back together because we're not as different as we think we are. So I really appreciate those experiences, even though it was difficult.
Yes, absolutely. Did you find yourself kind of educating your peers on India and where your heritage is from?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I tried to do from a very young age. And my mom really, I think, led the charge on this. Even when I was in kindergarten, she would always bring Indian food, from the Indian store, Indian restaurant back. And I guess I feel like you just can't do things like that anymore these days with COVID and whatever. But back then it was cool. And yeah, she would always bring samosas and chicken, tandoori chicken as a welcoming, and to help people understand our culture and make it more accessible. And obviously, whenever there was an opportunity to do show and tell or write a paper or give a speech about something, it was always focused on India for me. And so it's something, my Indian heritage and culture have been a huge part of my life. And it was also just about figuring out the balance between being an American and being an Indian at the same time.
Absolutely. It was like Saved by the Bell and Full House, and then whatever Shah Rukh Khan.
Exactly. Saved by the Bell by day and right. Bollywood by night.
Exactly. You are a trained singer in Western classical music, and that's something that we share in common. I did Indian classical music and chorus. And so after we're done with this interview, I would love to do a little duet with you.
I would love that. Yeah.
Yay. So stay tuned for that. But I wanted to highlight that because your family and your husband, they're so musically inclined. And so tell us a little bit about, that passion of yours.
Yeah, music was really the thing that brought my husband and me together. My husband's name is Parag. We met 17 years ago in the Bay Area. He was actually also at Stanford, but he was doing his PhD there. And I was undergrad. So we didn't really know each other at the time, but we met at a concert in San Francisco where he was performing. And he is trained in Indian classical music, and he also produces electronic music. I learned Western classical growing up and did a lot of Bollywood singing. I grew up kind of singing on stage my entire life. And so music was a huge passion of mine growing up and a huge passion of his. And it was really the thing that brought us together. And it is something that we have tried to cultivate in our lives, over the years that we've known each other. We actually did a music startup before Hooked together. And we just believe it's one of the universal sources of joy in people's lives. And it's really one of our life's mission to bring more music in a lot of ways back into people's daily lives.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, we'll get into Hooked, but stories, I feel, is the other component. And you're really driven by creative writing. So was that also an interest early on?
Yes, absolutely. For me, I have been writing my entire life. I used to write little short stories. I used to write poems. I would always submit them places, growing up. And that was my first, well, there were two things when I was little that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to be an inventor. And I think in a lot of ways, as the founder of Hooked, I kind of combine these two desires.
You're doing both in such an incredible way.
Thank you.
My God, that's awesome.
And I think it's just, for me also, growing up, as I'd mentioned, as the child of immigrants in this conservative place in America, stories were really an escape for me. Reading stories about, especially hero's journey stories, about people going through, adolescents or orphans going through, the classic thing of, this journey and this dark night of the soul, and learning how to kind of dig deep and believe in themselves to persevere. Those sorts of stories really inspired me and helped me get through difficult times. And so I just believe that stories are so important in our lives, and especially for young people.
Yes, yes. Now, what did you end up studying at Stanford? Did you find yourself kind of going the trodden path that most South Asians do?
I did, yes. So I did not study writing. I did not study music. I studied economics.
Okay, good for you.
But what I will say is that I truly found it very interesting, and I did it because, at least I didn't go to med school, but I did it because it was intellectually interesting to me. And at the time, I actually really wanted to do economic development work in India. And that was kind of what drove me into economics. But as I learned more about it, and then as I started thinking about my career, I realized that seed of that idea, I wanted to be an inventor, like that really kind of kept coming back. And I realized that my true calling was to make things, was to create things, and to find a way to have an impact by making products.
That's beautiful. What are some of the lessons that your parents instilled in you?
First and foremost, as immigrants, I really believe that immigrants are like entrepreneurs. You leave everything forge a new path. They're pioneers. And they really instilled in me that fearlessness, to just have a vision, to go for it, not worry, if you're just kind of diving into something that you don't necessarily know much about, and just to be brave and believe in yourself and find a path. And then the other thing I would just say is mindfulness. I think that's something that is just really deeply rooted in our culture, and they embody that. I've seen them go through so many stressful situations, and they've always just tried to stay calm, to keep love as their guiding force. And just watching that has really just been such a blessing to me. And it's something that I've always tried to incorporate in my life as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm sure it's something that you're trying to pass on to your son.
Absolutely. Very much so.
So let's get further into adulting and you and Parag. So you met at Stanford, and it was at the concert, and music really was that common thread. But you are partners in crime in so many ways, co-founders, parents. So, tell us the story, the love story.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we met at this concert. It was really, truly love at first sight for us. I mean, it was like, the other way of saying it is we met through family. So very Indian, but my cousin used to play tabla with Parag, and so I was actually just hanging out in San Francisco with my cousin, and he was like, we should go to this concert my friend's putting on. And so that was kind of the reason that I ended up at this concert that Parag was playing. Parag let us in before he was performing, and we were just kind of inseparable from that moment on. There was just something that clicked with us. And I just really feel that it was meant to be, that I found my soulmate. And, it's just everything changed for me in that moment. I just feel like my priorities and my vision for the life that I wanted to build, everything just became very clear. And it was truly a whirlwind. Over the next couple of years, I was working as a management consultant in San Francisco at the time. I had just recently started that job, graduated from college a few months earlier. And I just started to feel very restless and felt like I wasn't using my time and making the most of my time. And I think there was something about my love with Prague that made me realize that time is so precious and you really should make the most of it. And so I ended up leaving that job. I got a job and I realized, I knew it's like, I want to be a founder. I want to create something. I got a job in venture capital. I stuck with that for 6 weeks. I hated it. and then Prague and I just had this idea for our first startup. It was early 2005. Facebook had just raised a $12 million Series A, which seems so small now, in today's world. And it was just sort of like really percolating around us, this social networking. And we felt like, you know what, I feel like this is something that's going to be big in India. Maybe we can start a social network in India. And that was kind of the beginning of our journey as not just as lovers, but as co-founders as well.
Yes. Oh my God, that's amazing. What was the name of that company?
It was called Yari, which means friendship in
Yes. Oh, I love that. And so you were competing with, I guess Orkut was on the scene at the time?
Yeah. Amazing history. Yeah. Yes. That's really cool that you remember that. So Orkut was which was a social network owned by Google. It was really the only social network around at the time in India. It was really crazy early times in India back then for the internet and for entrepreneurship. Parag and I ended up moving to India for a while to start Yari. Orkut had traction, but they were kind of struggling with scaling issues. It was very slow, which is so weird because it's owned by Google. And we launched and, we got some traction for a while. We ended up having a couple of million users. We were kind of starting to make some waves there. But we had no idea what we were doing and we were too slow at everything. And then of course, Facebook soon became the Facebook in India and completely ate our lunch. And so that startup failed, but we stuck it out for 4 years. We really, really gave it our all. We ended up trying to pivot into a dating site for Indians, which it was too early for dating back then in India, for a dating site. And so it just didn't work out in the end, but it was an incredible learning experience for us. And that was really how, I learned how to be a founder.
Yes. I mean, I think, you really understand how scrappy and tenacious and relentless you can be when you're working in that ecosystem.
Yeah.
I had actually worked in Bombay as well. I moved back, after growing up outside DC and being in the States for university and all, moved back to Bombay to work for CNN. And I found the landscape to be, of course, burgeoning as far as media, but, there was still this like chalta hai attitude. Yeah. And like anytime I wanted to like get something done, I was like, I'm going to come up with a deck and I'll pitch it. And, I'm going to talk to the news directors and get stuff done. And they were just so not used to that. It was like, everybody else was like, they're okay with the status quo. And it's just like, yes, Suresh, sir. Yes, Suresh, sir. Yes, so, exactly. So, sir. And I'm like, I'm not a yes woman at all. Yeah. And I think, and you definitely aren't. And I just want to know what your experience was like with the nuances, because it's hard to get people to like change and say
it's
yes.
So hard. It's so hard. And especially back then, it was just, I think the tech culture has developed a lot since then, but it was still very new. It was very hierarchical. Like you're saying, it was so male dominated. We talk about our industries here in Silicon Valley here being male dominated. It's nothing. It's like, it's paradise here compared to what it was like in India back then. And, and I was young, I was 23. It was, there was so just,
they're not going to take you seriously.
No,
right?
They really, nobody, it was crazy hard. And then on top of that, like you're saying, just the pace at which people do things, it's just like getting to a meeting takes 3 hours because of the traffic. It's crazy. Right. So it was like molasses. I mean, it was really, really hard to get anything done. And I think, and it makes a lot of sense that it was a foreign company ultimately. I mean, obviously I'm American too, and our company's, incorporated here, but, it makes a lot of sense that it was an American company that can just move fast and get stuff done that ended up kind of taking over. But yeah. I do think things have changed in India a lot since then.
Yes. And back in those days, again, you're, so young and female. What was the backlash like? Because did people in the boardroom say, oh, you're just the wife of the founder?
Yes. And you know what? And then just kind of going back to what we're talking about, this wasn't just in India. Actually, this was in Silicon Valley. And I've had so many experiences where it's just wild. You're in these pitch meetings, pitching to investors. And of course, I'm doing most of the talking. And when the investors ask a question, they would look at my husband and ask him the question. It was crazy. And this has changed a lot. It really has changed a lot, in the 17 years that I've been doing this, but It was global. It was absolutely not just in India. Every single investor, they were all white men, here, and it was like that. And they were very, very dismissive, and it was really, really difficult.
But, you forged ahead, and we're going to get to that shortly. I commend you on all the hurdles that you faced and how they didn't affect you, and you were kind of unfazed and just full speed ahead.
Thank you so much. It's hard, and I will say that you're not always happy and you're not always positive. Like, there were a lot of moments where I doubted myself and I wanted to give up, but I just we just kept going. Eventually things started to click.
Yes, exactly. So then you made the very sound decision to bow out when you did. And Did you move back to Silicon Valley?
So we were in India for a year while we were doing Yari. And then we actually moved back to the United States, but we moved to Atlanta. And the reason was that Parag got a job as a professor at Georgia Tech to teach in his field, which was a combination of music and artificial intelligence. So it was the music technology group. It was a really unusual, but very forward-thinking and cool area of research that he was doing. And so it was a really difficult, he'd actually deferred for a year so we could go establish this company in India. And then he moved back. And so we were running the company together from Atlanta while he was also a professor. And we ended up living in Atlanta for, I think, 7 years in total, doing, continuing to do Yari and then shutting it down. And then immediately jumping into startup number 2.
Oh, amazing. And what was that?
So startup number 2 was a company called Kush, which is actually also a Hindi word that means joy. And it was a music startup, and it was an outgrowth of some technology that Parag had developed in his lab. We call it reverse karaoke. And the basic idea was you sing and it'll compose music to match what you sing. And this was very exciting for me because, as you had mentioned, I'm a singer. But I don't actually play any instruments. And so, I'm always kind of just singing a cappella or trying to find karaoke tracks on YouTube or whatever. But it was really, really awesome to be able to just sing and then hear that music, hear that, melody put to a beautiful backing track. And this was in late 2008, early 2009. The iPhone App Store had just launched a few months earlier, and we felt like this could be a really powerful iPhone app that helped hopefully millions of wannabe singers like me around the world make music with their iPhones. And so we commercialized the technology from Georgia Tech and ended up launching our very first iPhone app in 2009 using this technology called La-Di-Da.
Wow. That's awesome. And then is that what took you on another adventure where you lived abroad?
Yes. Well, it was the beginning. It was basically the catalyst for many adventures that came after. So La-Di-Da was really a turning point in my career as a founder. It was the first real success that we had. That app ended up having millions of downloads and did really well. And then we launched another app a couple of years after that called Songify, which uses machine learning to turn speech into song. And that app really blew up. It was the number one app in the world for a while, reached huge audiences. And then that led to one of our competitors offering to buy our company. So we joined, that company's called Smule. We joined Smule. We moved back to the Bay Area. And then after a couple of years at Smule, we decided to go on an adventure.
And now for a quick break, brought to you by my brand sponsor, Homer. Hi, this is Prerna Gupta, founder and host of That's Total Mom Sense.
I'm Stephanie Dua, president and co-founder of Homer.
And this is At Home
with Homer. Homer is the essential early learning program for kids aged 2 to 8. We have the most comprehensive app available for early learning skills that you can find on iOS or Google Play. And you can also find our really fun Explore kits that help kids with their math, their reading, and social emotional learning that you can find on our website, learnwithhomer.com.
On this weekly segment, we're going to cover a range of topics from raising confident readers to developing emotional intelligence.
These are the skills that will carry your child through school and life and resonate most when taught at home by you, their most important teacher.
So grab a notepad, your phone, or your mental notebook to remember the tips shared during the segment. And now on to At Home with Homer. Homer! This episode of At Home with Homer is about back to school and creating a path to confidence.
We all love a legendary comeback, and Degree Original Cool Rush is back and better than ever. Cool Rush isn't just a scent, it's a movement, a fan favorite that delivers bold, fresh vibes and all-day sweat protection. Whether you have a man that spends hours in the gym, heads into the office early, or is just trying to stay fresh on a long day, Cool Rush has their back. Head to your local Walmart or Target and grab Degree Cool Rush, the fan favorite scent from the world's #1 antiperspirant brand.
Optimism isn't sunshine and rainbows. It's fixing things, changing the way we fix things. It's running the world on smarter energy. Because if optimism never stops, then change can't either. GE Vernova, the energy of change.
It's been a really, really difficult time for families, and we've had a lot of twists and turns along the way. But through it all, our kids have shown how resilient they truly are. So as we prepare our kids to get back to school this fall, what should parents be thinking about, and how can we best prepare them for a really great school year? Stephanie, what are your thoughts?
Thanks, Kanika. I've certainly thought about this with even my teenagers, as they're now getting a little bit older. And I definitely thought about using the summer when they were little to create confidence. For me personally, and the way we think about it at Homer is it's most important to spend time during the summer building confidence and connection. They're both important. Connection helps with confidence, and confidence helps with connection. Connection can be family members, siblings, friends. It's that sort of safety and security of familiar faces and deep relationships that they have. But as you mentioned, kids have shown incredible resilience. And as parents, we can continue to build their confidence by giving them tools to continue their learning, helping them solve problems, and really overcoming obstacles with a growth mindset. I have a few tips I'd like to give parents. One is when we think about building social emotional confidence, it's a great idea for kids to start to learn that language. So one, you can create some prompts and kids can have a writing exercise. One question could be what I loved most about last year and what I liked the least. So recognizing both sides of it is great. And second is what I'm most excited about next year and what I'm most nervous about. Writing a story about their first couple of months or their first 100 days at school could be a really powerful way for a child. Even before they can write, they can dictate that story and draw, and they can start to kind of own those feelings. And if there's any anxiety in there, that's a way of depositing and processing that anxiety. The second thing is celebrating the I did it moments. We get so caught up in these big milestones, these big victories, graduation from kindergarten, reading, math, but it's really important to remember the small I did it moments, the little victories along the way, the child being able to put their pants on by themselves, and so really just providing a sense of praise for these little moments where they exercised their own agency, where they completed something themselves, that's a great confidence booster for kids, a huge confidence booster. Third is when they think about embracing a growth mindset, I love how, many families develop a daily affirmation and they really post that. It can be super simple. There's lots of websites that have daily affirmations. I'm sure there's an app now probably that has daily affirmations that we can set, but it's pretty easy to find them. And so just kind of getting into that mindset, that to look at the positive, to understand that you're part of a bigger group in a family, and, really helping calming strategies to deal with stress. Affirmations are great for adults as well. They're great reminders for all of us. And then finally, as we think about preparing kids for the academic year, children through COVID have had a range of experiences. Some kids have been online, some kids haven't been at school, some kids have been at school. And so how might we think about giving them the confidence as they start to, especially for kids entering kindergarten and first grade in those early school years, obviously Homer, CodeSpark Academy are great resources to help them. It's amazing. You would be surprised at, kids who enter kindergarten confident with some of the basic reading, some of the basic math skills, they really, that confidence carries them through. And so you don't have to overdo it, but I think just really thinking about the foundational skills and what are the key foundational skills that a child should have by kindergarten and really helping shape that. You would be surprised at how important that is for a child once they're in kindergarten and once they view themselves as a strong student. That's a really powerful confidence builder for kids.
Wow. I love all of these tips. I think it's great that you've come up with these tangible takeaways as parents prepare for back to school. I wanted to touch on the affirmations bit. It's something that we do in the car on the way to school. And, I have them each say, I am brave, I am confident, I am kind, affirmations like that. And I've seen really inspiring videos of parents doing that with kids looking in the mirror. Just, it's so sweet to see them make a connection with themselves and look into their own eyes and tell themselves that. And I think it's something we all can do and we all should do. There's a lot of fun ways you can incorporate daily affirmations into their life.
And it's so much better for them to say it, right? Like, I am brave, I am kind, versus you saying it, right? So that again comes back to their agency, right? So
yes.
How they view themselves in the context of the world, right? I'm a brave person. And then that gives them the freedom to take those acts of bravery, right? Because they view themselves as a brave individual.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really important that we remember to give that to them, because it's not intuitive for them to think of these things. And these reminders really go a long way.
Well, you're doing a great job. I love it. I'm going to use those affirmations with my
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. All ages.
Exactly. Thank you, Kanika.
We hope you enjoyed this week's At Home with Homer segment. To download the app, visit learnwithhomer.com/momsense, MOMSENSE, to receive your very own 60-day free trial. Your kids are going to love playing the games, watching the visual stories, and more. Now, back to the interview.
So in your Vogue article, you actually talk about this, adventure and really like crossroads that you were on. You said, full of exuberance, we quit our jobs, booked plane tickets, and faced the question of what to do with everything we owned. We packed a storage unit with a few items of furniture and the things we couldn't bear to get rid of. This we would hold on to for 12 months. Our Sonata we'd store as well. As for keepsakes, the photos and books and music that held so many memories, we digitized them, transferred everything to a couple of slim hard drives, no bigger than our passports. And all you did was you carried a single suitcase, 2 small backpacks, 2 computer bags, and my husband's hard-shelled guitar case, as he plays Indian classical acoustic instrument called the sarod. And you hadn't settled on a route, but I was envisioning warm beaches, which made packing easy. Bikinis don't take up much space. Sounds like bliss. What kind of compelled you to just stop life in its tracks and think, we're going to live somewhere else? It was Costa Rica, right?
Yeah.
And you just were like, we're going to enjoy the island life and check out for a little bit and take a beat?
Yeah. So it was really kind of this growing sense of disillusionment that came from success. So we had been striving all these years to make products that reached millions of people and to be successful founders. And I had actually had this goal I had never really spoken it aloud to anyone other than Parag, but I wanted to make enough money by the time I was 30 to be able to retire and never have to really work because, just for money, but to really be able to just live life basically. And I got crazy lucky and it happened. And when it happened, I found myself totally trapped by capitalism and by capitalistic desires, and felt like what I had accomplished wasn't enough. And I needed more, and I needed more money and more status and more accolades. It was disillusioning and it was disturbing. And also I found that, Parag and I had always had a beautiful relationship. We really never fought. We were always very much in sync. But suddenly, as we were starting to get more and more enmeshed in Silicon Valley and in this desire for success, I found us starting to kind of have more tension in our relationship too. And we were spending less time with music, less time reading, less time doing these things that were so nourishing to us and made us who we were. And there was a point where we just decided, it was actually, I remember it very vividly. It was Christmas break in 2013. And we were just like, what are we doing? What's happening? Why are we doing this? Life's better than this. And, we've accomplished so much. We don't need more. Let's just go live life. And so we decided to just do that, to just pause and not worry if other people were running ahead of us and making more money and getting more followers or whatever it was, just forget it and go live. And that's what we did. And it just was one of the greatest experiences of our lives. And I'm so thankful we did it.
Oh my gosh. I'm just so inspired by this because, at a time when everyone else is in this rat race, you kind of chose to be in this sannyas phase.
Yeah. Yes.
Where you gave everything up. And I feel like, as Indians, we think about doing that in our old age because we've lived our life, but the sannyas is something you did as part of your life.
Exactly. That's such a beautiful way of putting it. I think that is a privilege that we have in the modern world, to be able to do that. And going back to what we were talking about before about mindfulness and how we learn that in our culture, and we do learn it, but it's also so interesting because traditionally you're not really supposed to focus on it until you're old.
Yeah.
And it's kind of backwards. Why not? Why not focus on it when you're younger and be able to incorporate that into your life so you can live a peaceful and happy and joyful life while you are working and while you are being a productive member of society?
Yes, exactly. So now let's get into Hooked. Was it while you were away that, your brain was kind of churning and thinking of this concept?
Yes. So it was during our travels that the inspiration from Hooked came to us. And, we were traveling. We ended up traveling for 1.5 years. We started in Costa Rica and then sort of hopped from beach to beach, basically around the world. We did, of course, spend some time in India as well. And during this time, we started to write a novel together. Well, I say we were writing together. It was mostly me writing and Parag surfing and then giving me some feedback, basically, in the evenings. But we started to, work on this novel together. It's a sci-fi fantasy trilogy set in Silicon Valley in the future. And as we were writing, we just started to kind of think about what's happening in the world of fiction. And a lot of this came from, we would tell, you travel and people ask, like, what are you doing? And we said, we're writing a book for teenagers. 9 times out of 10, people would be like, oh, that's kind of cute, but what's the point? Teens don't read. And that really kind of got us thinking, that's so sad. It's so sad that teens don't read anymore. Especially, like I was saying, for me at that age, books were so important. They were
the
everything
Harry Potter
to me.
Generation. I mean, we read for fun, and it was like a means to pique our curiosity and imagination.
Exactly. And so that really stuck with us. And we started to just think about, could we do something to change that given our experience creating music apps for that demographic? Could we just rethink how stories are told on the phone and kind of bring fiction to where teens were to make it more interesting to them and more engaging so that hopefully they'll spend a little bit less time on social media and a little bit more time reading.
Yes. And the way that you did that is so genius. You have these stories that are kind of playing out as dialogues between two people and text messaging back and forth, which is, again, the language that they speak. And so what made you come up with that concept of storytelling?
So it was really just a process of iteration. And this is kind of how we do all of our product development. We just started with the idea was, okay, this is a tall order. We need to make reading engaging on the phone, and we're competing with social media. So let's just test some ideas. Let's put a few pieces of content in teens' social media feeds, just run some ads basically on Facebook and see what the engagement is like. We started by testing normal novels, basically, things they're reading in their English class, basically, putting them up in like normal, just how they're written, kind of old school, and seeing what the engagement was, just to establish a baseline. And of course, the engagement was abysmal. I mean, it was really, really bad,
Okay, yeah.
And then we had our baseline. It was like, okay, now can we think of some ideas to increase the engagement? We started with more image-driven ideas, kind of like comic book or manga style things, but we really didn't see an uptick. And then we just sort of came up with this idea one day. They spend their lives texting each other. That's how they're telling the stories of their lives. What if we told a story in a text message format? And we wrote like a 5-minute story and we put it up, and the engagement was just through the roof. It was higher than anything we'd ever seen. And that was kind of the light bulb moment and how we came up with the idea for Hooked.
Yes. Yeah. And I've seen the ads. And I love that because there's these cliffhangers that are like, oh my God, I got to run and download this app, which is just brilliant. I feel like, you're dubbed the queen of viral apps, but I want to say that you're like the Shakespeare of our culture and generation.
Thank you.
Yes, because that's kind of, how we we're taught. Shakespeare, obviously, he's writing in this iambic pentameter, and it's a screenplays, but it's the same thing, right? It's conversation and dialogue driving the story.
Well, thank you for that comparison. I don't deserve it. And but I really appreciate it, especially because I think a lot of people see Hooked, and, the reaction that we get a lot of time from adults is that, oh, you're destroying reading. You're taking something, this sort of like holy thing and this very like high-minded thing, and you're kind of dumbing it down and making it really stupid. But what we're saying is, we're certainly not trying to destroy traditional novels. Right. I love reading traditional novels. We're just trying to create a gateway. And it's what the insight really is, that it's exactly what you're saying about Shakespeare. Conversation is, human interaction is something that we are wired to pay attention to as humans. And by really putting the dialogue front and center, it was kind of the trick that made teens pause in their social feeds and actually read a story.
Yes. Yes. And what was your why all along? I feel like all entrepreneurs have one. It's what you have to turn back to when you're ready to quit. So what is it?
Yeah, it was really this deep belief that reading great stories is so important in our lives, and especially for teenagers. And then if that dies, there's a really important part of the human experience that will die. And we just wanted to do whatever we could to bring that experience into the modern world so that it can continue to thrive.
Yes. And are you going to kind of iterate to incorporate music, AI into this app or another one?
Yes, we are working. It'll probably be a different app, but we are working on something that incorporates exactly what we're saying: music, some machine learning, and actually a little bit of mindfulness to with storytelling to kind of recontextualize all of these things. I think, so many people are suffering, and teens especially are suffering right now with everything that's been happening. And we really believe that there's a role that art has to play to help people kind of quiet all the noise in their minds and just, find their peace again.
Yes, yes. I think what's really the linchpin for the app and the stories is the writing. So how do you recruit like really talented creative writers?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Great stories come from great writers. And that has been, the thing that we have focused on from the very beginning. We've actually always really tried to find writers that hadn't really been discovered yet or had their lucky breaks. And so we started very early on by reaching out to creative writing programs across the country and just kind of putting out a call and saying, we're trying to get teens to read fiction. Mm-hmm. We've created this kind of unusual format. And so if you're interested in writing fiction for teenagers in particular and interested in innovation, like come write for us. And we were blown away by the response. We had so many writers reach out that thought that agreed that there was a need for this and a need to kind of rethink how stories are told. And our network of writers just kind of grew from there through word of mouth, and it's continued to grow. And we've worked with hundreds of writers now, not just in America, but in other countries as well. And it's been really one of the most fulfilling parts of what we've done.
That's wonderful. So I want to get into another adventure, parenting.
Yes, the greatest of all adventures.
Yes. So when did you and Parag decide you were ready to start a family?
So it was after we'd been together for 15 years. So we waited a really long time. Yeah. So we have our first son. He's 2 years and 3 months old. His name is Shiv. And actually going back to the topic of last names, we decided, so my last name's Gupta, as you know. My husband has a different last name, Chordia. And we just felt like Gupta Chordia was going to be like a mouthful of a last name. And so we decided to give Shiv his own last name. And so his last name is Taal, Taal, which means rhythm in Hindi.
Wow. I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Shiv Taal, our first son. And I'm actually pregnant right now with our second child.
Congratulations. Oh my gosh. That's news for us. That's wonderful.
And yeah, parenting has been truly the greatest adventure. And everyone has their own path. I'm really glad we waited as long as we did. I really felt, I wouldn't say I felt ready, mm-hmm. But I feel like now in retrospect, we definitely were ready for it. And all of the experiences that Parag and I had together as, starting these companies together, as partners and as founders, I think just really helped us be mature parents and learn how to just stay calm when things were difficult and all of that. And it's just been really wonderful.
That's great. No, I'm excited for you. And I completely agree in kind of knowing when the time is right. Like Costa Rica would not have been the same.
Exactly.
With the bottles and the sippy cups. Like,
yeah.
No.
Exactly.
So you did it right. Your timeline was perfect. Oh, that's so great. What has parenting kind of taught you? I mean, how are you as a mom? I feel like it taps into these different facets of our personality that we didn't know existed. So
yes.
What's kind of changed in you?
I think the biggest thing is, especially as a mom, it just brings out certain, you can say vigilance or paranoia, depending on how you want to, frame it. Mm-hmm. And I think I always knew deep down that this would come out in me as a mom, because it's my mom,
Yeah.
And I think you have to have some level of that. It's innate and it's our role as mothers. I really do believe that, but it's also, I really try to just kind of, keep it at bay. And it's so hard. I mean, there's so much pressure on social media and all these things that you're fed, like the plastic thing, like plastic's the devil and all of these things. And like, there are two parts of me. One is just like practical. It's just like, okay, it's just light weight and it's so much easier. And like, it's easier to put the plastic in the dishwasher and like, he's going to be okay. Like,
right.
I've been doing that my whole life. We're fine, and the other part of me that's like, the plastic,
Yeah, it's like this definite feeling of like being conflicted all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think what I'm learning, I'm just continuing to learn. It's a continuous process, is just to chill out, these things don't matter that much. He's going to be totally fine. And just look at the bigger picture of he's amazing. And, we're so lucky to be able to give him the life that he has and just, focus on joy and love and like, it's all going to be fine.
Yes, exactly. What is Shiv like?
He's just really happy. He's a happy kid, which is just, it's so great. It was such a joy to have that during COVID and during the lockdowns, just to have his laughter and his smiles all the time. He is very strong-willed, which is, I guess, not that surprising since both his parents are strong-willed. He has a lot of energy, I think sometimes too much for me, and he's surprisingly social, which, is weird because I think at his age, I was actually pretty shy, but he's a very social kid, which has been nice.
That's so sweet. So he's ready to be a big bro.
Yeah.
So tell us about a mom sense moment that you've had. And by that, your sixth sense, we all have it, and it just never steers you wrong. So when did you trust your mom sense?
Well, I love that question also, because it kind of goes back to what we're talking about this, do you consider it paranoia or do you consider it vigilance? And there's sort of, it's like, it's important that you have that. And so for me, one of the really kind of important moments was when Shiv was 9 months old. I was paranoid that he had iron deficiency anemia. And I felt like I was seeing signs of it. He wasn't really eating solids very much. He was mostly just still on breast milk, and have this instinct that he had it. And when we took him to his checkup, I asked the doctor, and she was very dismissive of it actually, and said it wasn't necessary, but I really insisted. And we ended up getting him checked, and sure enough, he had iron deficiency anemia. And so we got him supplementation, and now, he's off of it and he's totally fine now and everything's good. But it was really one of those moments where I'm really glad I pushed for this and didn't just, let society tell me that I'm being a crazy mom.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you trusted yourself, and that's really what the show is all about, is to like remind ourselves that yes, there's plenty of parenting books out there now, and there's experts and your pediatrician, and, everybody wants to, give you their opinion, but sometimes it's your gut that's going to steer you on the right path.
Let's not forget our quote of the day.
Is there a quote that you live by?
Yes, it's a Rumi quote, and it's only from the heart can you touch the sky.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love that. It's a reminder that, it's really important to do everything that you do with love and do it from the heart. And I think there is so much pressure on all of us, especially moms, to be perfect, to be richer, more beautiful, more famous, more fit all the time. And I think if you do those things just for the accomplishment of those things, they end up being hollow in the end. But if you do whatever you pursue it from the heart, and you will find fulfillment in it, regardless of what the outcome is. And that's really what I try and live by.
Oh, yes, that's beautiful. I completely agree.
It's now time for Mom Haul, when we share products we love.
Okay, Mom Haul is a fun segment where you can share a product or gadget that you're just loving that you want other parents to know about.
Yeah. So this one is, it's for adults. It's called the Theracane Massager. And it's just this like a really kind of weird and kind of simple contraption that just helps you get like the little kinks out of your neck and stuff, basically. And I think, especially when you have a toddler that you're carrying around in awkward positions all the time, or trying to work out, whatever it is, especially at my age, because I did wait a long time to have kids. I always have kinks. And so, yeah, that has changed my life. The Theracane massager, I highly recommend it.
Cool. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram. It's just Prerna Gupta, my first name, my last name. I try and post music sometimes and stories and all the things, I try and just do some breathing, so just all the things that I'm passionate about. I like to share that with other people.
That's wonderful. So I'm going to take it back to this duet that we have planned, and we will end on a high note, literally.
सावन का महीना पवन करे शोर जियारा रे झूमे ऐसे जैसे बनमाना चे मोर सावन का महीना पवन करे शोर जियारा रे झूमे ऐसे जैसे बनमाना चे मोर.
Prerna, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, your insights, your humor. Much, much continued success to you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Kanika. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a pleasure. You are such an inspiration, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk.
How fun was this episode? Prerna, thank you for being so down to earth and candid about your journey. I'm so glad we've become fast friends, and I'm excited for your ongoing ventures in tech and the intersection of content creation, music, and AI. If you don't already, subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also listen to the episodes on my website, that'stotalmomsense.com, and teasers on YouTube. Of course, follow me on IG at Kanika Chadda Gupta, where I share highlights of my upcoming guests, and I really enjoy interacting with my audience, you, my community, on who you want to hear from, what you want to know, and show topics that really land and resonate with you. Write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And remember, always trust your mom sense. Stay strong, super mamas. I'll see you next time.
That's Total Mom Sense.